She didn't just reject you. She held up a mirror, and you shattered. You stood there, offering your carefully constructed world, your good intentions, your logic, your vulnerability, and she looked straight through it, as if it were nothing more than a cheap parlor trick. Her polite smile was the most devastating weapon ever deployed against you, because it carried a verdict colder than any insult: irrelevance. You weren't even worth her contempt. You were simply an obstacle to be navigated, a conversation to be ended. She didn't leave you. She unexisted you, piece by piece. With a quiet sigh and a glance at her phone, you walked away thinking you had lost a woman. But the horrifying truth is that you lost a war you never even knew you were fighting. You believed the battlefield was one of shared values, emotional connection, and mutual respect. A fatal error. The real war is fought in the silent, primal theater of instinct, a place where words are meaningless and status is everything. It is a war of genetic imperatives, of subconscious signals, of brutal, biological arithmetic. And in that war, you were not a soldier. You were a casualty before the first shot was even fired. The philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer, a man who stared into the abyss of human existence and refused to blink, understood this with terrifying clarity. He saw that beneath our thin veneer of civilization, of reason and morality, there is a single, relentless, driving force: the will. A blind, insatiable, striving energy that commands all of life. This will doesn't care about your feelings. It doesn't care about your poetry or your promises. It cares only for its own propagation, its own continuation. And a woman, in her primal essence, is the ultimate gatekeeper of that will. Her attraction is not a choice she makes. It is a response she has. It is the will within her, recognizing the strength of the will within another. When she looked at you, her instincts, the ancient software running deep in her DNA, performed a silent, ruthless calculation. And the result came back negative. She didn't reject you. The life force within her rejected the weakness, the uncertainty, the lack of sovereign power she sensed in your very presence. Schopenhauer stated, "Man can do what he wills, but he cannot will what he wills." You cannot will her to want you. Her desire is not under her conscious control, and it is certainly not under yours. It answers to a much higher, much more brutal authority. This is a truth that modern society tries to bury under layers of comforting lies. It tells you to be yourself, to be vulnerable, to be a good man. It sells you a fantasy of egalitarian romance, where logic and persuasion can win a heart. But the men who live by these rules are the ones who end up hollowed out, confused, and broken, wondering why their best efforts result in nothing but patronizing pity. They are the men who watch from the sidelines as women are drawn, as if by an invisible force, to men who operate on a completely different frequency. A frequency of unapologetic power, of quiet dominance, of a reality they command rather than one they plead with. You have been fed a diet of strategic poison, designed to make you compliant, predictable, and, ultimately, disposable. You were taught to play a game with a fraudulent rulebook, while the real game, the one that matters, was being played all around you. The rejection you faced was not an anomaly. It was the system working perfectly. It was a diagnostic report on your current operating system, and the diagnosis was failure. But what if that moment of excruciating humiliation was not a final judgment, but an initiation? What if the pain you feel is not a wound to be healed, but a signal to be decoded? A signal that you have been living in a false reality. The world has given you a map that leads nowhere. It is time to burn that map. It is time to stop listening to the comforting lies and start studying the brutal mechanics of power. Schopenhauer did not offer comfort. He offered a weapon. He offered a lens through which the chaos of human desire becomes a predictable, exploitable system. He revealed that this primal code of attraction, this unspoken language of the will, is not magic. It is a science. It is a system with rules, and like any system, its rules can be learned. They can be mastered. They can be bent to your own purpose. The question is no longer why she rejected you. The only question that matters now is whether you have the courage to dismantle your own programming and rebuild yourself into the kind of man whose reality she cannot deny. whose power her instincts cannot help but acknowledge. Are you ready to stop being a victim of the game and become its master? Before we begin to deconstruct this primal code and arm you with the psychological weaponry you need, I command you to take your first strategic action. Subscribe to Dominio Psicologico. Activate all notifications so you never miss a tactical briefing. Give this video a like to signal your commitment to this path. And in the comments below, I want you to report for duty. Tell me what city you are waging your war from, and then I want you to share the one moment of rejection that served as your brutal awakening. Do not share it for sympathy. Share it as a declaration of war against your own weakness. Your story is now a part of this arsenal. We will use that pain as fuel, transforming it from a source of shame into the very foundation of your future dominance. The operation begins now. You see, the first pillar of this transformation, the very bedrock upon which all interpersonal power is built, is the understanding that the game is won or lost before a single word is ever spoken. Your body is your vanguard. It is the first piece of intelligence an adversary or a potential partner gathers about you. Long before you have a chance to articulate your thoughts, your ambitions, or your character, your physical presence has already submitted a comprehensive report. This report details your genetic fitness, your hormonal status, your history with discipline, and your position in the social hierarchy. Most men believe that communication begins with words. This is a catastrophic miscalculation. Communication begins with presence. It begins with the way you occupy space, the cadence of your walk, the steadiness of your gaze, the subtle signals of your posture. These are not trivial details. They are the language of the will, the raw data that a woman's primal instincts are designed to process with ruthless efficiency. She is not consciously thinking, "This man has a strong posture, therefore he is a suitable mate." It is a far deeper, more visceral process. Her nervous system is communicating with your nervous system, and the message it receives from a weak, hesitant, or apologetic physical presence is one of incompetence. It signals a man who is not a master of his own vessel, and therefore cannot possibly be a master of his environment or a source of stability and security. Schopenhauer would argue that the body is the objective manifestation of the will. It is the will made visible. A body that is neglected, soft, undisciplined, lacking vitality, is the physical signature of a weak will. It is a public announcement that you have surrendered to entropy, that you lack the fundamental discipline to impose your will even upon your own flesh. Rebuilding your physique is not an act of vanity. It is the first and most fundamental act of reclaiming your sovereignty. It is about forging a body that signals capability, resilience, and power. This isn't about becoming a bodybuilder or chasing some aesthetic ideal promoted by a sick culture. It is about cultivating genuine functional strength. It is about the discipline of pushing past pain, the resilience developed through consistent effort, and the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you are physically formidable. This process rewires your brain. The hormonal shifts that occur through intense physical training, the increase in testosterone, the regulation of cortisol, do not just change your body, they change your mind. They eradicate hesitation. They build a tolerance for discomfort. They instill a sense of groundedness that radiates from you, a silent hum of power that others can feel. When you walk into a room, you are no longer asking for permission to be there. Your physical form declares that you belong. Beyond the raw structure of your physique is the even more critical layer of body language, the art of nonverbal dominance. Consider the man who enters a room and immediately scans it, his eyes darting around nervously. He is seeking approval, looking for threats, telegraphing his insecurity to everyone present. His movements are jerky. His posture is closed. He physically shrinks to take up less space. He is prey. Now consider the man who enters and his gaze is steady, purposeful. He moves with an economy of motion, deliberate and calm. His posture is open, his shoulders are back, he occupies his space without apology. He is a predator. Not in a violent sense, but in the sense that he is the one who acts, while others react. He is the cause, and the rest of the room is the effect. Mastering this requires a conscious deconstruction of your own habits. You must stop fidgeting. You must slow down your movements by 25%. You must learn to hold eye contact without aggression, but with an unwavering steadiness that communicates absolute presence. You must adopt postures of power, even in solitude, to retrain your nervous system. This is what Schopenhauer's philosophy implies when taken to its strategic conclusion. You must impose your will on your own unconscious behaviors until they become a reflection of the powerful identity you are forging. You are reverse engineering confidence, building it from the outside in. You are not faking it until you make it. You are installing a new operating system through rigorous, disciplined practice until the behaviors of a powerful man become your default state. This is the primal blueprint, the first filter through which all human interaction must pass. Fail here, and your words, no matter how brilliant, will be delivered from a foundation of sand. Succeed here, and your every word will land with the weight of stone. Now we conduct the autopsy. We must dissect your defeat with the cold, detached precision of a surgeon, because buried within the carcass of your past failures is the blueprint for your future dominance. There will be no comfort here. There is no anesthetic for the truth. You failed because your strategy was flawed from its very inception. You believed the battle was for her heart, when it was always and only for her respect. Respect is the currency of power, and you were bankrupt. The loss of your authority was not a singular event. It was a campaign of 1,000 concessions, a slow, methodical bleeding out of your power that you mistook for compromise and connection. It began with the first test. It always does. It was a small thing. A complaint about your friends. A passive-aggressive sigh about the time you spent on your work. A last-minute demand that conveniently conflicted with your plans. It was a probe, a reconnaissance mission sent from her primal operating system to test the perimeter of your reality. And you, conditioned by a lifetime of strategic poison, saw it as a bid for emotional connection. You saw a problem to be solved, an emotion to be soothed. You immediately abandoned your position. You canceled your plans. You apologized for your ambition. You placated her mood. You thought you were being a good guy. What you were actually doing was communicating a catastrophic weakness, that her emotional state had more authority than your own purpose. She tested. You yielded. She won. That single, seemingly insignificant moment was the first domino. You didn't just concede a point. You conceded reality itself. You taught her that her feelings were the organizing principle of your shared world. From this point, the infection spreads. Having established that her validation is your objective, you begin to actively seek it. This is the second stage, the loss of emotional control. You start monitoring her for micro-expressions, analyzing her tone, desperately trying to gauge her approval. The question, "Is everything okay?" becomes your constant, pathetic refrain. You are no longer a sovereign entity. You are a satellite, and she is the planet you orbit, desperately trying to stay in the warmth of her light. Schopenhauer would see this as a complete abdication of the will. Your will, which should be directed outward toward shaping the world, is now turned inward, obsessively focused on managing her perception of you. You have handed her the controls to your own nervous system. Her good mood makes you feel stable. Her bad mood sends you into a panic. You are no longer the captain of your ship. You are a terrified passenger, praying for calm seas, completely at the mercy of a storm you cannot control. This dependency is not love, it is addiction. And like any addict, you will sacrifice anything for your next fix of approval. This leads directly to the third stage, the surrender of your sovereignty through the act of the unwarranted apology. When you apologized for being late because of a critical work meeting, you signed your surrender. When you apologized for having a different opinion on a film, you signed your surrender. When you apologized because she was in a bad mood and you were the most convenient target for her frustration, you signed your surrender. An apology, when not genuinely warranted, is not a tool for reconciliation. It is a declaration of lower status. It is a formal statement that your actions, your thoughts, and your very existence are subject to her approval. You are not saying, "I regret my action." You are saying, "I regret myself." You are begging for forgiveness for the crime of being a man with his own frame, his own priorities, his own mind. Each unnecessary apology was another shovelful of dirt on the grave of her respect for you. She may have accepted your apology, but the life force within her, the primal will, registered the weakness and filed it away. It noted that you were a man who could be moved, a man whose boundaries were permeable, a man whose spine could be dissolved with emotional pressure. The final collapse is the breaking of the silence. She grows distant. Her texts become shorter. Her affection becomes conditional. She is testing your frame for the last time. She is erecting a wall of silence, a powerful psychological weapon designed to provoke a reaction. The weak man panics. He cannot tolerate the void. The silence is a mirror, and in it, he sees his own powerlessness, and he cannot bear the sight. So he breaks. He sends a barrage of texts. What's wrong? We need to talk. Did I do something? Please just tell me what's going on. He calls repeatedly. He demands a conversation. He is a drowning man clawing for the surface. In this moment, you reveal everything. You show her, in no uncertain terms, that you are completely and utterly under her control. You prove that her inaction can dictate your action. Her silence is dominance, not inattention. It is a calculated move in a game you don't even know you are playing. And your frantic attempt to force a resolution is your checkmate. You have demonstrated that you have no inner stability, no purpose that can sustain you in her absence. You have proven, beyond any doubt, that she is the source of your reality, and no woman can respect a man whose reality she can so easily shatter with her absence. She tested you, and you failed. Now, I hear the programming in your head fighting back. But communication is important in a relationship. Isn't it my job to make her happy? I was just trying to be a good person. These are the lies you were sold to keep you weak and controllable. Let's dismantle them. Communication from a position of power is negotiation. Communication from a position of neediness is begging. You were not communicating. You were pleading for her to restore your emotional equilibrium. And your job is not to make her happy. A woman's happiness is a fleeting, chaotic, and hormonal state that is entirely her own responsibility. Your job is to be the unshakable mountain, the fixed point of stability in the storm of her emotions. She doesn't want you to solve her feelings. She wants to know that her feelings cannot destroy you. When you crumble at the first sign of her displeasure, you prove you are not a mountain. You are a sandcastle, and the tide is coming in. No one is coming to save you. Only you can decide to stop being the effect and become the cause. If this clinical diagnosis of your failure feels like a cold blade twisting in your gut, it's because it is the truth you have been avoiding. To begin the strategic treatment for this condition, you must take immediate action. Subscribe to Dominio Psicologico now. Activate all notifications, because every video is a critical dose of the antidote. Give this video a like as a signal that you are finished with weakness. Now, in the comments, you will answer this question. What was the one reasonable request you complied with, or the one small thing you apologized for, that you now recognize as the first crack in the foundation of your authority? Do not post it for sympathy. Post it as a public record of the death of your old self. Understand this. Your fall from power was not loud. It wasn't a single dramatic argument. It was a silent erosion. It happened in the quiet moments of hesitation before you said no. It happened in the apologetic tone you used to state a preference. It happened every time you chose her comfort over your own integrity. It was a death by 1,000 paper cuts, and you were the one holding the blade. You were so focused on not losing her that you lost yourself. And a man who has lost himself has nothing of value to offer a woman, because he no longer possesses the one thing her primal nature craves above all else, a reality stronger than her own. You were not fighting a battle of love, logic, or good intentions. You were in a silent, metaphysical war between two wills, and your will was the first to break. There is no going back for the weak man. There is only the construction of the new. The man you were, the one who stood in the wreckage of her polite smile, is now a ghost. He is a liability. His memories are poison, his instincts are traitorous, and his hopes are chains. Your first act of true power is to execute him. You do not mourn him. You do not try to fix him. You leave his corpse on the battlefield as a warning to the parts of yourself that are still tempted by weakness. From this point forward, your reconstruction is not an emotional journey of healing. It is a cold, tactical operation of demolition and rebuilding. It is war. And these are your orders. First, you will cut the excess. This is the strategic amputation of everything that connects you to your past failure. You will sever all lines of communication. This is not a dramatic announcement. It is not a final angry text. It is a silent, surgical removal. You will block her number. You will delete her from all social platforms. You will erase her photographs. You will dispose of any object that serves as a monument to your defeat. This is not done out of anger or spite. Anger is a loss of control, a confession that she still has power over your emotional state. This is done with the cold, detached precision of a commander clearing a kill zone. You are eliminating variables. You are sterilizing the operational environment. Her potential to reach you, to send a meaningless "hey" text that could derail your entire mental state, is a strategic vulnerability. You will seal that breach. She must cease to exist in your digital and physical world. The goal is to create a complete and total vacuum. You must become a ghost to her, an unanswered question. While the weak man hopes for a chance to prove he has changed, the strategic man understands that his change must be so profound that it happens in a reality she no longer has access to. Your unexplained absence is a far more powerful statement than any words you could ever utter. It communicates that your world has continued to turn, so completely and so powerfully, that you didn't even notice she was no longer in it. Second, you will install silence. This is your new operating system. Your past self was programmed for reaction. A text message was a summons. A bad mood was a crisis. A moment of distance was a cause for panic. You were a slave to stimulus. From now on, you are the source of it. You must master the art of the void. Silence is not emptiness. It is a weapon. It is the deliberate withholding of a reaction. And in that space, you force the other person's mind to race. They will fill that silence with their own insecurities, their own questions, their own narratives. While you are calm, focused, and executing your mission, your silence forces them into a state of psychological chaos. Should she, through some unforeseen channel, attempt to make contact, your response is nothing. Not a delayed response. Not a cold response. Nothing. Every moment you do not reply, you are reclaiming territory in the psychic war. You are teaching her, and more importantly, you are teaching yourself, that your attention is a finite and valuable resource that is deployed on your terms, and your terms alone. You are conditioning your own nervous system to tolerate the discomfort of the unresolved, the tension of the unsaid. This is where true emotional sovereignty is forged. Schopenhauer observed that every man takes the limits of his own field of vision for the limits of the world. By breaking contact, you are forcing yourself to expand your vision beyond her. You are learning that your world is not defined by her approval or disapproval. You are building an internal foundation so solid that the storms of other people's emotions can crash against it and break. Be the absence that carries weight, not the presence that begs. Third, you will control the reaction. This is the internal war, the most difficult and most critical theater of operations. The pain of the rejection, the humiliation, the anger. These are not feelings to be suppressed. They are raw energy. They are fuel. The undisciplined man allows this fuel to burn him from the inside out. He drowns it in alcohol, distracts himself with meaningless pursuits, or worse, vents it in pathetic displays of impotent rage. You will do none of these things. You will become an alchemist. You will take this raw, toxic energy, and you will channel it into the forge of your reconstruction. Every pang of memory will be converted into another set of repetitions in the gym. Every wave of anger will be channeled into another hour of focused work on your business or your craft. You will learn to sit with the discomfort, to observe it without becoming it. You are not your emotions. You are the commander who observes the battlefield of his own mind and deploys his resources strategically. When the impulse to check her social media arises, you will recognize it for what it is: a probe from your old, weak programming. You will observe it, deny it, and redirect that energy. This is the practice of imposing your will upon your own impulses. It is the hardest training you will ever endure, but it is the only path to true freedom. You are not trying to stop feeling. You are learning to subordinate your feelings to your purpose. The man who wants to be loved will be discarded. The man who imposes presence will be feared. And fear, in this context, is simply another word for a respect so profound it borders on the sublime. This reconstruction is not about her. To even frame it as a way to win her back is to fall into the same trap that led to your initial defeat. It is to make her the object, the prize, the center of your universe. She is irrelevant. The objective is not to reconquer her. It is to build an empire so vast and powerful that she becomes a forgotten footnote in its history. This is your singular focus, your hierarchy. Your physical form must become a testament to discipline, a weapon forged in iron and austerity. Your financial status must become a fortress, granting you freedom, options, and power. Social standing must be architected with precision, surrounding yourself with men of ambition and women of quality, cutting out the weak and the parasitic. Your mind must become a library of lethal knowledge, in strategy, in finance, in psychology. You are not building a better version of yourself for her. You are building a new man on the ashes of the old one, a man whose reality is so compelling, so dominant, that her opinion of it is less than irrelevant. Statistical error. Do not reconquer. Replace with a sharper silence. A silence filled with the noise of your own relentless, disciplined construction. This is no longer a hope. It is a logistical plan. You are no longer a victim of circumstance. You are the architect of your fate. The time for analysis is over. The time for action is now. This is a command, not a suggestion. Subscribe to Dominio Psicologico and activate all notifications, because every piece of intelligence we release is critical for your campaign. Give this video a like to signal your enlistment in this war against mediocrity. Now, report in the comments. I want you to answer this question, and I want you to answer it with tactical coldness. Who is the one person whose face you will picture when you are in the final rep of your workout, the final hour of your work, the final stage of your ascension? Do not use their name. Use their title. The professor who laughed. The boss who passed me over. The ex who called me weak. The family that doubted. Let the world bear witness to the fuel that powers your engine. We are turning their doubt into the very foundation of your throne. And so, the day inevitably arrives. It does not announce itself with thunder or drama. It slips into your life as quietly as a whisper, a notification on a screen, a familiar face across a crowded room. It is her, the ghost of your past failure, the architect of your painful awakening, has reappeared on the perimeter of your new reality. The man you used to be would have felt a surge of adrenaline, a cocktail of hope and fear that would have hijacked his nervous system. His heart would have hammered against his ribs, his mind racing, scripting 1,000 possible conversations, desperate to prove that he had changed, desperate to win the validation he once craved more than air. You are not that man standing on his grave. You see the message, or you meet her gaze, and what you feel is a quiet curiosity, the detached interest of a biologist observing a specimen. You see not the woman who shattered you, but a collection of signals. You see the subtle uncertainty in her smile, the calculated casualness of her approach, the question mark hanging in the air between you. Her primal instincts, the same ones that once dismissed you as irrelevant, have now picked up on a new frequency. They sense the density of your presence, the unwavering calm in your eyes, the economy of your movement. They sense the empire you have been building in your silence. Her will, that relentless unconscious force Schopenhauer described, is performing a new calculation. And this time, the result comes back as a resounding, undeniable positive. She is drawn to the power she now perceives, like a moth to a flame. But here is the fundamental truth she cannot comprehend. The flame is no longer burning for her. It is not burning for anyone. It is a forge, and its purpose is to build your legacy. Her attempt to re-engage is a test, but it is not a test for you. It is a final diagnostic for her. She is testing to see if the man she remembers, the pleading, reactive, emotionally dependent man, is still in there somewhere. She is hoping to find that old keyboard, to press the same buttons of guilt and hope that once made you dance to her tune. When you offer nothing but a calm, polite, and utterly impenetrable indifference, you are giving her the coldest answer imaginable. Your response is not a strategy to win her back. It is a statement of fact. The game she is trying to play no longer exists. You did not just flip the board. You walked away from the stadium, melted down the pieces, and used the raw material to build a throne. This is the ultimate revenge, and it has nothing to do with her. Emotional revenge is not about causing pain. It is about demonstrating that the other person no longer has the power to cause you pain. It is about achieving a state of sovereignty so complete that their approval is as meaningless as their disapproval. Your victory is not in her renewed interest. It is in your own complete lack of it. She is a relic from a museum you no longer visit. Her presence now serves only as a milestone, a marker that reminds you how far you have traveled from the weak man who once begged for her attention. You do not hate her. You do not wish her ill. To do so would be to admit she still occupies space in your mind. Instead, you grant her the most devastating judgment of all: irrelevance. She has been relegated from the main character in your tragedy to a forgotten extra in your epic. This is the final lesson. Respect is not requested, it is commanded. It is not won through persuasion. It is the natural consequence of power. And power is built in the dark. It is forged in the lonely hours at the gym, in the relentless focus on your purpose, in the discipline of saying no to your own weakest impulses. It is the quiet confidence that radiates from a man who has built a life of such substance and meaning that the validation of any single person is a luxury, not a necessity. You stopped asking for permission to be powerful. You stopped apologizing for your ambition. You stopped negotiating the boundaries of your own reality. You simply began to build, brick by disciplined brick, a fortress of selfhood so formidable that the world had no choice but to acknowledge its existence. Her return is the final echo of a war you have already won. Let her watch you from a distance. Let her wonder about the man you have become. Let her piece together stories from others about your success, your discipline, your new life. Her curiosity is the tax she must now pay for her initial misjudgment. But her access is denied. Your attention, your energy, your time, these are the most valuable currencies you possess, and they are now invested only in your mission and in the people who are worthy of being inside your fortress. You have learned that the greatest statement you can ever make is a powerful, unexplained absence. You are the silence that deafens. You are the void she cannot fill. You are the living embodiment of Schopenhauer's will, a force of nature that has become conscious of itself, directed, and utterly unapologetic in its pursuit of its own ends. This journey was never about her. It was about you. It was about killing the boy who sought love and birthing the man who commands respect. It was about transforming the pain of rejection from a poison that paralyzed you into a fuel that propelled you into the stratosphere. Look at your hands. They are no longer the hands of a supplicant, reaching out for approval. They are the hands of an architect, a strategist, a king who is building his own world on his own terms. The final operation of your old life is to cement this new reality. Make your commitment to this path absolute and unwavering. Subscribe to Dominio Psicologico. Activate all notifications, for the war against weakness is fought daily. Give this video a like as a final salute to the man you left behind. And in the comments below, answer this one, final question. What is the name of the empire you are now building? And what is its first law? Do not tell me your business plan. Tell me the name of your new reality. The sovereignty of self. The fortress of focus. The imperium of will. And declare the single, non-negotiable principle upon which it will be built. Your declaration is your contract. Your legacy begins now. The day she finally doubts who you've become will be the day she realizes she can no longer afford the price of admission to your world.